Hi guys, welcome. Hope you're all doing good. Today in this video, let us understand some of the important highlights of the interim budget 2024-25. The budget is interim because it is an election year and this budget plans only for the span of 4 months. Once the election is over and a new government is formed, that new government is again going to come up with the budget for the financial year. So this budget is known as an interim budget. Okay. Now the entire budget is focusing on a concept called Vikasit Bharat. This Vikasit Bharat is a vision of developed India, inclusive India and a prosperous India. And we strive to achieve this India by the year 2047. And the budget very beautifully expresses the trinity to achieve this objective, and the trinity is demography, democracy and diversity. With this trinity, we can achieve that objective of Vikasit Bharat or developed India by the year 2047. Our finance minister very beautifully tells that we are already on track in achieving this objective. Our finance minister says that according to the multidimensional poverty index released by Niti Aayog, we are already brought 25 crore people out of poverty. Our finance minister has stated that our average real incomes have increased by 50% in the last 10 years. Our real per capita income has gone up from 68,000 in 2013-14 to almost approximately 98,000 in the span or in the year of 2022-23. So this shows almost a rise of nearly 43%. That is, the per capita income has increased by 43% in the span of 10 years. Also, very beautifully, the finance minister gives two connotations of GDP. On one side, the GDP is taken as gross domestic product, and our finance minister says that our GDP will strive to grow at an annual growth of 7%. And if this happens, the economy will reach $5 trillion by the next 3 years. And this will make us almost to become the third largest economy. So this is the growth perspective of GDP. Our finance minister has also given development perspective of GDP. And in this development perspective of GDP, our finance minister has elaborated that GDP stands for governance, development and performance. Okay, and in this endeavor, our finance minister has told that in the last 10 years, we have not only grown growth-wise, we have also grown development-wise. To justify that fact, our finance minister says that in the last 10 years, our average real incomes have grown by 50% in the last 10 years. So that shows that growth is also happening and commensurately the development is also taking place. So these are some of the positive outlook that assures us that we are progressing towards a Vikasit Bharat that we are dreaming for or aspiring for. Okay, so with this, now let us dwell into some of the important announcement or important allocation of resources that is done by our finance minister. And this allocation or this discussion will happen in different thematics. The first theme that I will discuss is the Amrit Kal theme. The Amrit Kal theme itself is divided into 5 verticals. The first vertical is sustainable development. The second vertical is infrastructure and investment. The third vertical is housing and tourism. The fourth vertical is health and aspirational district program. And the fifth vertical is agriculture. Okay, these 5 verticals are put under the thematic called Amrit Kal. After this, we will discuss the Nari Shakti. After this, we will discuss empowering of youth. After this, we will discuss Garib kalyan, Desh ka kalyan, that is poverty alleviation program. After this, we will discuss some of the tax regime and tax reforms that are done in this interim budget. After this, we will discuss some of the important facts that shows how the Indian economy has remained resilient. And the last, we are going to discuss some of the allocation of resources to most important government programs of the year. Okay, now this video is important because from prelims perspective, it is important for you to know what are all the programs that the government is mentioning in this interim budget. you should always learn more in depth about these flagship programs of the government, because the questions can come within what exactly is this program. And for mains, you should understand how is the economy progressing, how is the economy performing. And that progressing and performing will come only by analyzing the trends and making sure you know the facts at the back of your head. Current account deficit, fiscal deficit, the FDI inflows, these are some of the facts that you should have right at your fingertips if you have to justify or write a very good answer, especially in your GS3. Okay, so whatever discussions that we will do, make sure that you use it to the fullest, both in your prelims exam as well as your mains exam. So I hope it helps. Let us start off then. All right. Okay. The first theme is Amrit Kal. Amrit Kal is the span of 75th year of independence of India to 100th year of independence of India. The achievement, the progress and the aspirations of India in this time span is what we call as Amrit Kal. Under this theme, the announcement are done under 5 verticals, and these 5 verticals, the first one is sustainable development. Under sustainable development, the first announcement is viability gap funding for wind energy. Viability gap funding means those projects that are economically justified but they are falling short of finances. Because they are economically justified, the finances are given to them and they are supported, and these projects are made to reach its end. So by implementing these projects, there can be greater good and hence financial support is given. That is what is the viability gap funding. So the first announcement under sustainable development is the viability gap funding for wind energy. The second announcement is the incentivization of coal gasification and coal liquefaction. Coal gasification is the mix of coal with water to create something called syngas. Syngas is a mix of carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen and methane along with water vapor. So this in a way is more efficient than trying to mine coal and then burning it. So this coal gasification and coal liquefaction is incentivized. The third project that was recently announced by our Prime Minister is also mentioned in this sustainable development, and that is rooftop solarization. Rooftop solarization is an idea that will help every household. The target is 1 crore household. In this 1 crore household, the target is every household will get 300 units of free electricity. The excess of energy generated can be dispersed or distributed to the distribution companies, and this will help in 15 to 20,000 annual savings in every household. So that is the advantage of this rooftop solarization, which is also known as Suryodaya Yojana. Okay. Now, along with this, one statistics that is given under sustainable development is the percentage of non-fossil fuel installed electricity capacity. Now, if you take the year 2004 and compare it with year 2023, the percentage of non-fossil fuel electricity installed capacity was just 30%, which is now in 2023 it has come to 43%. As you can see, in just 2 decades there has been increase of almost 14 percentage points in the non-fossil fuel energy generation installed capacity category. Okay, that again shows the progress. So these are some of the main announcements that were done under the vertical of sustainable development. Okay, so let's go to the second vertical under Amrit Kal, that is infrastructure and investment. Here, very important statistics that you can use in your mains exam to show how India has progressed in the field of infrastructure. Now, if you take the increase in capital expenditure, as you can see, there has been a steady rise in the capital expenditure from fiscal year 18 to fiscal year 24. So you are seeing the steady rise of increase in capital expenditure for the last 6 years, which shows that India is increasing its assets and reducing its liabilities within its economy. That's a good news. Then the next is in the FDI category, that is the foreign direct investment category. If you take this decade almost has seen an 100% rise in the FDI compared to its previous decade. So we have doubled the amount of FDI inflows in this decade compared to our previous decade. That is another good news in terms of investment attractive destination that India has been in this decade. Okay, the next is some of the important statistics that now I am going to tell that makes us proud on the physical infrastructure front. India has progressed beautifully in the sector of physical infrastructure. These are some of the important statistics that shows the progress made by India in the realm of physical infrastructure. The first is, in the span of 7 years, from fiscal year 15 to fiscal year 22, this is the progress. Let us start. The first is, there is 47.5% rise in the national highways in terms of kilometer. The second is, there has been 24% rise in the cargo traffic in these last 7 years. The next is, there has been 126% rise in electrified rail route in terms of kilometer in the last 7 years. That is another very proud movement. The next is, there has been 56% rise in aircraft movement in the last 7 years. And the next is, there has been 101% rise in the number of airports in the last 7 years. This is between fiscal year 15 to fiscal year 22. So as you can see, in the front of physical infrastructure, there has been rapid progress that has happened within India. Along with this, the PM Nari Shakti Yojana is standing strong, and this has again been highlighted in the interim budget. This PM Nari Shakti Yojana is a national master plan for multimodal connectivity, which helps reduce the logistic cost and which helps improve the connectivity. And this brings 16 ministries together, and it helps in integrated and coordinated approach to improve our infrastructure, which in turn will help improve the connectivity projects in India. And this again is very, very important for your exam. So this is in the vertical of the investment and infrastructure. So with these two verticals, let us go to the third vertical. The third vertical is aspirational district program and health. In the aspirational district program and health, the first, let us focus on aspirational district program. This aspirational district program is a bottom-up approach to improve the standard of living of the poorest districts in India. It is basically focusing on 112 districts to improve the socio-economic indicators in the 112 districts. So this program has been successful. How? Because of these two statistics. These two statistics justify the importance or the effectiveness of aspirational district program or the ideology of bottom-up approach. One statistics is, if you take the last 5 years, there has been 30% rise in the number of women who have registered for antenatal care in these districts. That is a very good news. The next is, if you take the last 5 years, there has been more than 600% people who have registered for Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. Now these two statistics, 30% rise and 600% rise, shows that this program has been successful. This is on the aspirational district program. The next is the health part. In the health part, one for women, especially young girls from the age group of 9 to 14 years, there is a vaccine that is developed in order to reduce cervical cancer. It is a vaccine against the human papilloma virus, and this is again being incentivized. The second is, there is something called UWin platform. This is the digital platform for tracking vaccines. This UWin platform is developed to help effectualize or to make Indradhanush mission more streamlined. That is the second announcement. And the next announcement is the Ayushman Bharat scheme. As you know, Ayushman Bharat scheme is basically a two-part or two-component program. One is the health and wellness program, which focuses on primary health care. Another is the PMJAY, Jan Arogya Yojana. Okay, that PM Jan Arogya Yojana is the secondary and tertiary health care that is given in the form of insurance. So every family will get 5 lakh insurance for secondary and tertiary health care. So that is the second component. The first component is health and wellness center, that is working on PHCs. So this Ayushman Bharat, which has been very successful, is now extended to Asha workers, Anganwadi workers and all the helpers within India. That again is a very, very important news. And overall, if you look at the aspirational district program and if you look at the health aspects, the inclusive development is something that we are focusing on, and the inclusive development is something that we have achieved progress as well. The next is the next vertical that we will be focusing on is housing and tourism. So if you look at housing, the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Grameen. Okay, now this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Grameen is to give housing for all in rural areas. It is basically providing pakka houses for all those people who are living in kacha houses or dilapidated houses. Now this program provides a house of around 25 square meters. It provides 1.2 lakh as a incentive for people living in plains and 70,000 for people living in mountains or hilly areas. Okay, and this has been successful in creating almost 3 crore households, and they are extending from 3 crore to an extra 2 crore that will also be done in the additional coming years. So that shows that on the housing front also we have been achieving good progress. Okay, the next is tourism. In terms of tourism, they have highlighted that in G20 around 60 places were presented that showcase the diversity of India. Again, remember, in G20 60 places were showcased to show the diversity of India. Okay, apart from this, the incentivization of island tourism is also highlighted in this budget. Lakshadweep has taken its name, so Lakshadweep is going to be in the forefront in the future development, so you should have very good information about Lakshadweep. Also, long-term interest-free loans are going to be provided to the state governments also to improve their tourism. So these are some of the important aspects in this vertical of housing as well as tourism. And the last pillar under Amrit Kal is agriculture and food processing. Okay, in agriculture there is something called nano DAP that is incentivized. It is a type of fertilizer in which they use nanotechnology. So nano DAP means nano diammonia phosphate. This fertilizer has two important nutrients. The one nutrient is nitrogen, the second nutrient is phosphorus. Okay, now nano DAP and conventional DAP. Nano DAP uses nanotechnology, that's why they call it nano DAP. It is very efficient. It helps in effective absorption of nutrient by plants, whereas conventional DAP is very diffused, it is ineffective. So the government is focusing on incentivizing nano DAP, one, to reduce the cost of subsidies on fertilizer, and two, to improve the agricultural productivity of the farmers. Okay, so this nano DAP, if I have to just give you a comparison, 500 ml of nano DAP is equivalent to 500 kg of conventional DAP. Okay, so this is how effective this nano DAP is. With that, also, if you take a blue revolution, if you remember, blue revolution is nothing but increasing fish production, modernizing fisheries sector, increasing the lives of the people who are involved in fishing, and you are increasing the livelihood opportunities of fishing sector. So this blue revolution is also seeing 16%, that is 16% rise in its allocation. Along with this, as I told you, in food processing is a very important sector because the backward linkage of food processing is our farmers of India. So if food processing rises, not only are we reducing the wastage of food, but also we are increasing the incomes of farmers. So if you take food processing, there is a scheme of formalizing micro food processing units. Because food processing is highly unorganized, we have to bring it under the formal ambit of economy. So this program of formalizing the micro food processing unit, you are seeing an increase in allocation of almost 37%. That again is a good news. Okay, so these were some of the important progress in the 5 different verticals of the Amrit Kal theme. So I hope it was helpful. I hope you have made a note of it, and make sure that you learn about the programs for prelims. Use the statistics in your mains. Okay, so now let us go on to the next theme. The next theme is important announcement for the welfare of farmers. There, the first announcement is the direct financial assistance to almost 11.8 crore farmers under PM Kisan scheme. PM Kisan is Kisan Samman Nidhi that was launched in 2019. It provides direct transfer of income. It's an income support scheme that provides 6,000 rupees per year for small and marginal farmers. Again, 11.8 crore farmers are benefited under this PM Kisan scheme. The next is the PM Fasal Bima Yojana. This Yojana was launched in 2016. It is a crop insurance scheme that is commonly launched all over India under the bracket of One Nation, One Crop Insurance. It provides insurance for food crops, for oilseed crops, for annual horticulture and commercial crops. And under this, 4 crore farmers are benefited. And the last is the integration of 1,361 mandis under the program of eNAM. eNAM is Electronic National Agricultural Market. As you know, in India, agricultural market is highly fragmented. Every state has implemented APMC acts and they have their own mandis, and these mandis are the places where the farmers are mandatory made to sell their produce. So because our agricultural market is highly fragmented, it is hurting the farmers from realizing the true price of their produce. So by coming up with this e-NAM, we are able to integrate all these fragmented markets electronically, so that a farmer anywhere in India is able to sell his produce or our produce, so that they realize the true benefit of this prices. So these were some of the important aspects in the theme of welfare to farmers. The next theme is Nari Shakti, that is the empowerment of women. Under this, the first scheme is Mudra Yojana, under which 30 crore loans has been dispersed to women entrepreneurs. This Mudra Yojana is a program launched in 2015. It is basically dispersal of loans to non-corporate, non-farm, rural or micro enterprises. Okay, so here almost 30 crore loans has been granted to women entrepreneurs, and the regulation of Mudra is done by an authority called Micro Units Development and Refinance Agency. This agency does not lend directly to individuals. It will lend to last mile financial institutions, which in turn will lend to the individual or micro enterprises. Alright, so these last mile financial institutions may be NBFCs or MFIs, but Mudra will refinance those NBFCs or MFIs and will not directly lend. However, within this Mudra Yojana, what is successful is, one, the youth, we will come back to it again, but with respect to women, almost 30 crore loans has been dispersed for women local entrepreneurs. The next is increased female enrollment in higher education, almost up to 28% in the last 10 years. And there has been 43% increase in female enrollment in STEM courses, that is the science, technology, engineering and mathematics courses. And the one more proud statistics is 1 crore women have been assisted by 83 lakh self-help groups in order to become Lakpati Didis. The concept of Lakpati Didis is SHGs will skill women so that they earn 1 lakh every year. So this is known as Lakpati Didis concept. Again, this concept has become very, very successful. The next is the achievement of India in the last 5 years. If you take 2017 and 2023, the female labor force participation rate was just 23% and today it is 37%. There is almost an increase of 14 to 15 percentage point in the participation of women in the labor force. That again is a proud moment. So this is the theme of empowerment of women and how India has progressed under this. The next is the poverty alleviation, that is the Garib Kalyan, Desh ka Kalyan theme. Under this, the first is direct benefit transfer has led to the savings of 2.7 lakh crores. The next is, as I told you in the beginning, 25 crore people have been moved from the multidimensional poverty that is assessed by the Niti Aayog in terms of the multidimensional poverty index. Okay, and 78 lakh street vendors have been given loan under PM Swan Nidhi. Okay, what is PM Swan Nidhi? PM Swan Nidhi is Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi. Okay, and under this PM Swan Nidhi, the goal was to provide 50 lakh street vendors a collateral free capital loan of up to 10,000. Now from 50 lakh street vendors, we have actually breached and we have given them almost 78 lakh street vendors have been benefited under this PM Swan Nidhi. That again shows the improvement or the inclusive development of the government in helping alleviating poverty. Okay. The next is the decline in head count ratio. In 2004-2005, the head count ratio was 55%. In 2013-14, the head count ratio was 29%. And today, the head count ratio is just 11%. There is rapid decline of head count ratio, which shows that poverty alleviation is real. The poverty is a fight that we are successfully winning against. What is head count ratio? Head count ratio is the ratio of population, the proportion of population that falls below the poverty line. Below the threshold of poverty line, how much population is present, that is the percentage that is shown in head count ratio. So currently, from 55% in 2003 and 4 to 29% in 13-14, we have fought the head count ratio to almost 11% today. That shows our fight against poverty has been successful. So this is regarding the poverty alleviation theme. Desh ka kalyan, Garib ka kalyan, Desh ka kalyan. The next theme is empowering of youth. Again, in empowering of youth, one Skill India mission has been successful. 1.4 crore youth have been trained in Skill India mission. The next is Mudra. Again, Mudra has helped in encouraging the youth in local entrepreneurship. Around 43 crore loans have been given to youth under this Mudra Yojana. The third is the PM Shri Yojana, that is upgradation of schools, that is also been launched in order to improve, this Shri is nothing but upgradation of schools for rising India. This inculcates values that have been given in our National Educational Policy 2020. That is the PM Shri Yojana. The next is the achievement that we have done regarding the education for youth. These are some important statistics that you can use. I'm just going to tell you the statistics. One is there is 43% rise in IITs in the last 9 years, which again is a proud moment. The next is there is 214% increase in AIIMS, that's AIMS, in the last 9 years. There has been 53% rise in universities in the last 9 years, which shows that we are increasing our educational infrastructure in order to improve the overall educational parameters or statistics in India, that in turn will help empower youth of our country. The last is the tax regime and the tax reforms theme. In this, one, you should understand that our corporate tax remains at 22% for domestic industries. The next is the direct tax collection has almost tripled in the last 10 years. The next is income tax has become the largest income generator in our economy. It is assumed that we are almost, by the end of fiscal year 2025, we will almost garner 19% of the government resources will come from income tax alone. So that has become the largest generator of income. And if you take the average monthly gross GST collections, this average monthly gross GST collections has doubled to 1.66 lakh crore in fiscal year 2024. Okay, so these are some of the important tax regime and tax reform measures or some important statistics that you can definitely use in your GS3 paper to substantiate the progress that we have made within the economy of India. So I hope this theme was also helpful. So these are some important informations that you can definitely use in your answers for mains. The programs that we discussed is something that you have to research and you have to develop that depth so that they can answer in your prelims. So these are some of the important themes. If you're done with this, let us move on to the next theme. The next theme is the allocation of resources to major schemes. The first scheme in that is MGNREGA, the National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. Now this is a statutory right to work of any individual in rural areas. So the scheme promises 100 days of work to one member of a family in a rural household. If that individual has applied for work, then that person should get the work within 15 days of application. If not, that person becomes eligible for the application of employment allowance. Also, that person should be given work allotment within the 5-kilometer radius of his or her residence. So, we are seeing this scheme is a stellar empowerment scheme that epitomizes the importance of work in rural areas. Hence, a very, very important empowering scheme that sees 43% rise in its allocation in this budget. The next is, again, as I told, Ayushman Bharat Yojana. This is a scheme in order to improve the health care within our country. It has two components. One is the Health and Wellness Center that focuses on primary health care. The second component is the secondary and tertiary health care that is given through insurance. That is the PM Jan Arogya Yojana. This insurance is up to 5 lakh per family per year, and we are seeing just 4% increase in the allocation in this Ayushman Bharat scheme. The next is production linked incentive. This production linked incentive scheme is working like a performance linked incentive. The greater the production, the greater the incentive. That is the entire essence of this scheme. This is one to attract foreign investment, to improve exports, to make India a manufacturing hub, and to also make sure that India becomes an attractive investment destination. Now this production linked incentive scheme has seen 33% rise in its allocation. The next scheme is development of semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem. This was actually the objective of India Semiconductor Mission 2021. That is to develop semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem. Now here the allocation of fund is very high because India is seeing that it wants to exponentially grow in this semiconductor sector. So we are seeing 130% rise in allocation in this particular sector. And the last is the renewable energy sector, that is the solar power grid. We are seeing an approximate of 71% rise in its allocation. Okay, so the allocation goes on the ideology of the government of the day. The programs that they are pushing is for the programs that are required in order to achieve their objective of Vikasit Bharat, that is developed India. So these were some of the major schemes and their allocations. So the next theme is resilience of Indian economy. Some of the important indicators that display the resilience of Indian economy is what we will discuss here. The first is the current account deficit. As you can see, the current account deficit is declining, which shows that there is progress being done with respect to the exports that we are focusing upon and the import substitution that we are working upon. The next is the statistics of unemployment ratio. Unemployment ratio is the number of people unemployed within our labor force. As you can see in the graph, there is steady decline in unemployment ratio from fiscal year 2017 to fiscal year 2023. The next is the gross non-performing assets. This gross non-performing assets, first let me define what are non-performing assets. Non-performing assets are any loans that have been overdue for more than 90 days, then you call it as non-performing assets. And gross non-performing assets is those non-performing assets that are done before provisioning. And when I minus provision from that non-performing assets, it becomes net NPAs. Now what is provisioning? Provisioning is that sum of money that is taken aside and kept so that can be used in times of those loans that will turn as non-performing assets. So if you include that within the non-performing asset, it becomes gross. If you remove that, it becomes the net non-performing assets. So if you look at the graph, the gross non-performing assets has also been declining in India, which is again a good news because we were suffering from twin balance sheet problem. Now we are actually strengthening both the balance sheets, both at the bank's end as well as at the corporate end. The next is the digital transactions. As you can see in the graph, there is rapid increase in digital transactions. We can say that the digital transactions is rising from fiscal year 18 to fiscal year 24. And the last is the GST collections. Again in this, there has been steady rise in GST collections from fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 24. Now these statistics are important from prelims. They can ask you the trends of the different economic parameters or markers in the prelims exam itself. So know which trend is steadily rising, which trend has increased exponentially. These markers are very, very important for deducing statements in your economy subject of prelims. Okay, so these are some of the important graphs that show the resilience shown by the Indian economic sector for the volatility. Okay, so I hope these important themes were helpful and you will use these themes to amplify your preparation both for your prelims as well as mains. So thank you so much for hearing me out. I hope it has been helpful, and if you liked and enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much guys. Until next time, have a nice day. Bye.